Okay, to find the greatest common factor of the terms, you have to take 24, negative 36, and 48, and see what number will go into all three of them. And some of you will see, okay, well, 2 goes into all of them. So we look at 2, 24 divided by 2 is 12, 36 divided by 2 is negative 18, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. Well, then hopefully you see another number goes into there. I can see that 6 goes into all of those, so I'm going to divide by 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. 24 divided by 6 is 4. And then nothing else goes into those other than 1. So your greatest common factor is 2 times 6, which is 12. Well, then you have to ask yourself, what about the variables? Do they all have a variable? And the answer is yes. And then which one or how many do they share? They can only share the lowest that they have, and the lowest that they have is x to the first. So your GCF variable is x. Your numerical GCF is 12. So your overall GCF for the entire thing is 12x. This one says to simplify the product using the distributive property. Now you can use the distributive property or you can use the box. I know that it's multiplying and that I have to do the box or the Punnett square because there's not a sign between there. So I fill out my Punnett square. And 2a minus 9 with 4a plus 3. And I distribute. 4 times 2 is 8. A to the second. A lot of people forget that to the second power. When we multiply, our exponents change. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. A lot of people forget that tag along of an A. 3 times 2 is 6a. 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. Well, then you combine your like terms, and you end up with 8a squared minus 30a minus 27. And that's how you simplify using the using the Punnett square of the box, not really the distributive property. But I'm okay if you just know how to do the problem. Then number 35 says, what is the factor form of the expression? Well, this is where you have a trinomial and you have to check for a greatest common factor first, and other than 1, there's not one. So then you go to your multiply and add or subtract table. They have to multiply to negative 36 and add or subtract to positive 5. And so the numbers that do that are 9 times negative 4 gives you negative 36, and 9 plus negative 4 gives you 5. So your numbers are 9 and negative 4. And what you do with those numbers is you create the Punnett square, but we're going to work backwards. First term is 3x squared. That goes in your first box. The last term is negative 12. That goes in your last box. And then we have to do something with 5x, and that's where these numbers come in. We rewrite it as 9x minus 4x, and that gives you your 5x. Then you go up and you pull a GCF out of 3 and 4, and x squared and x, and it's just a 1x. The greatest common factor between 9 and 12 is a 3. The greatest common factor between 3x squared and 9x is a 3x. And then the greatest common factor of negative 4 and negative 12 is going to be negative because your leader is negative, and then it's going to be a 4. And so your final factored form is on the outside of the square, and you end up getting x plus 3 times 3x minus 4, and that's your factored form. Number 36, it says, what are the equations, the solutions to the equation of x squared minus 9? Use a graph. Well, you could do x squared. Well, let me back up. You could, since it's a binomial, you could technically move this 9 over by adding it. X squared equals 9. To undo squaring, we take the square root, and we should have 2 solutions. So this is where we get x equals positive 3 and x equals negative 3. So these are the actual solutions. Now to show the graph, we know that your parabola should open or should cross the x-axis at positive 3 and negative 3. And we haven't really talked about, we know that the vertex is in the middle, and we know that it opens up because this first number is positive, your leading coefficient is positive. But we haven't discussed where exactly the vertex is. So for right now, you can just kind of just put it somewhere. We know it's in the middle, and just kind of sketch a graph the best you can do. The main thing I'm concerned with is, do you know that once you get your answers, those solutions are where that problem crosses, or where that graph crosses the x-axis. Solve the equation by using the zero product property. This is where we take this factor, 3x minus 2, and set it equal to 0. And we take this factor, 4x plus 8, and set it equal to 0. And then we solve by adding 2, 3x equals 2, and dividing by 3. So we end up with x equals 2/3 as one of our solutions. Over here we have to subtract 8, and we get 4x equals negative 8. Divide by 4, and we get x to equal negative 2. So your two solutions are negative 2 and positive 2/3. And then what are the solutions to the equation? I hope that when you see this, you see, oh, it's a trinomial, so I need to try to factor it. And so we go to our multiply and add or subtract. They have to multiply to negative 18 and add or subtract to 7. And the two numbers that do it are 9 and negative 2. And some of you will realize that, oh, this is a leading coefficient of 1, so I can go straight to x plus 9 times x minus 2. Some of you don't see that, so if you don't see that, that's fine. We can do our Punnett square. X squared is first, it goes in the first box. Negative 18 is last, it goes in the last box. 7 can be rewritten as 9x minus 2x. GCF going up is an x. GCF going up is a 9. It's not just a 3. GCF going to the side is an x. GCF going to the side is a negative 2. So you still end up with x plus 9 times x minus 2. And this is just the factor. These are just the factors, not the solutions. We still need this equals 0 to the side. So we set each factor equal to 0. And we solve it. We subtract 9. I get x to equal negative 9. We add 2. I get x to equal positive 2. So my two solutions are negative 9 and positive 2.